Hi, everyone. Pleasant good morning to everybody out there, wherever you may be. Welcome to Lorosportspod and the Woodbury University Sports Center show. I'm Loro with Matt Bridgewater here, and can't wait for us to be back in studio very soon. But for now, we're just going to have to do this virtually because of the ongoing coronavirus pandemic and the Delta variant that's been going on. We have a lot going on in the sports world, especially the 2020 Olympics in Tokyo for the Summer Games. A lot of crazy drama in the NBA world right now, along with the MLB world last week when it comes to the trade deadline, and then more NFL camp headlines to talk about. And then the LA Kings, we're going to discuss this. They have made they've so far have been winning the NHL free agency so far. So, Matt, how's it going? And it's been a while since we did this, and looking forward to doing this weekly again when the football season begins.
Yeah, going well, Loro. I'm out on my balcony now. Yeah, going well and having fun, watching some sports and watching the Olympics a little bit. And Team USA got a big win yesterday, the basketball team. And, very excited for football, the start of football for sure.
Absolutely. And don't forget, Matt and I, next month, before week one of the NFL season, before the Thursday game between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys, Matt and I will be making our divisional picks and who's going to be winning each award, along with the three teams in the AFC and NFC are going to be going to the wild, going to be playing in the wild, who are going to be the three wild card teams in the AFC and the NFC. But I have a feeling that the AFC wildcard picture is going to be pretty much too close to call than in the NFC.
I agree. Yeah.
What were you saying?
Yeah, I think that the NFC's. I think that both are going to be pretty competitive this year, actually.
Yes, because the AFC is more quarterback heavy. I think the NFC is quarterback heavy too, but I think the AFC is starting to become more quarterback heavy. But let's lead things off with the NBA. Let's start with the NBA draft recap. So you know the answer to this question pretty well. At your Detroit Pistons selected Cade Cunningham with the number one pick. Do you favor him right now as the Rookie of the Year?
Yes. Yeah, I think that it's all about Cade Cunningham. I am all on board with Cade Cunningham coming to the Detroit Pistons. It's going to be exciting to watch.
You pair him with Killian Hayes, but the Pistons, Shaq Bay, I can't say his name, but I think the Pistons have a very good young team coming up, but it's going to take years for the Pistons to build their identity.
Yep. They'll need, Cunningham will need help, and we'll see if Killian Hayes and their other rookie this year, I forget his pronunciation too, I hope that's a good young core. You can always add pieces as they get better.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this NBA draft class is not as strong as what people think than in years past, but I think the best player out of this draft class is Cade Cunningham.
Yeah, me too.
But aside from that, let's head into the offseason talk with trades and free agency now happening in the NBA. But let's start with the big news with the Lakers, is that Russell Westbrook was acquired from the Wizards to go to his hometown LA Lakers for Montrezl Harrell and Kyle Kuzma draft picks. What are your thoughts on Russell Westbrook joining LeBron James and Anthony Davis with the Lakers?
Well, I think it's the one place for Westbrook to legit win a title. His own personality and his style of playing is, LeBron and AD, I think, will still be the leaders of that team with Westbrook playing, the third man role, which I think could be good for all of them. Of course, Westbrook's not used to doing that role, so we'll see how it goes. But for him, this is his best shot to win a title.
It is his best shot to win a title. You're right. What he's really going to bring to the Lakers is his tenacity. He can play defense. He can play on both sides on the floor, play defense. He can definitely – he's good in the fast break. He's good at triple doubles. But all we need to see out of Westbrook is the way he behaves on the floor.
Yeah.
Because Russell Westbrook can be very cocky at times and can get technical fouls. I think this is a big help for the Lakers, but also the Lakers got Dwight Howard and Trevor Ariza back. Do you think that that's a help for the Lakers too?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
And then this familiar face was on your Pistons, and he was a Laker too in the past. Wayne Ellington is going to be a guy that's going to help with the shooting for the Lakers as well.
Yep, I think so.
What about Kent Bazemore?
I don't know much about him. What did he resign with the Lakers?
Well, Kent Bazemore was a Laker before, but he's pretty good defensively. But I think the Lakers so far have been winning the free agent, the offseason so far. But what is next for the Lakers? Do you think the Lakers should still trade for Buddy Hield?
I don't know. I think they'll need some depth on the team, and maybe he'll provide them with that depth.
Yeah, I mean, the Lakers definitely need shooting, but also some news to talk about in Miami is that what are your thoughts on Kyle Lowry teaming up with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo in Miami?
I think that's good for Miami. I think he's going to complement that team really well. I think that they want him down there, from Pat Riley to Eric Spoelstra to Jimmy Butler, and I think Lowry, this could be a good fit for him. Clearly, he doesn't have a future in Toronto with what happened this past year and even last year. So, he needed out of Toronto.
Definitely a change of scenery was needed for Kyle Lowry. I really think the Raptors could definitely build around Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet. I think those are their only two best players. I think the Raptors definitely need to get younger. But also, sorry, this is a bit off topic here. What are your thoughts on the Milwaukee Bucks winning the NBA championship over the Phoenix Suns in 6 games?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's been, they did a fantastic job. The team came together and they're legit champions. They had a tough road to get through. They had to beat New Jersey or Brooklyn. They had just had a good Suns team that overachieved probably a little bit, but I think that, you have such a good young core with Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton and then Chris Paul with the leadership there. So with Giannis and J-Rue, and we're a better team, and 4 straight wins. They bull rushed them at the end there.
They sure did there, but also, Chris Paul tends to choke in the playoffs, as you know. But I felt like that this was his year to play in the NBA Finals. He got to experience it, but he's just long overdue to win a ring and get a championship ring on him. But will he do it again at some point? I think he will. But what are your thoughts on him staying with the Phoenix Suns on a new 4-year contract?
I don't know where else he'd want to go with the Lakers getting Westbrook. I mean, you might have thought he could go to LA, but I don't think they could really afford him. So I think that, him staying in Phoenix is the best opportunity for him going forward still. And that young core is only going to get better. And the question is, can Chris Paul avoid injury and stay at that elite level for at least another year or two?
He sure can. I mean, he has a fantastic relationship with Monty Williams, and I think the Suns are going to be very competitive next year. But also the Lakers, what are your thoughts on them? What are your thoughts on Marc Gasol deciding to return to the Lakers? Do you think that he should start at center, or do you think it should be Dwight Howard?
That's a good question. I think they might go with Gasol first and see how he does, and then maybe move to Howard after that. But they might just do it by seeing what matchups are available that night,
I would stick with Howard at center just because Marc Gasol just can't really protect the paint. He's a guy that just shoots outside, he's an okay rebounder, but I think Dwight Howard's a better rebounder than Marc Gasol. But also, speaking of which, a former Laker, and also you knew him pretty well during his days with the Detroit Pistons. What are your thoughts on Andre Drummond joining the Philadelphia 76ers?
Yeah, well, he's chasing that championship still, and they're willing to bring him on board. So, I mean, he doesn't have many years left, especially with his skill sets not really being that conducive to today's game. So, with a healthy Lakers team, maybe he would have won it this year with him, but we'll see if he can do it with Philly next year.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a two tall towers between Andre Drummond and Joel Embiid. Do you think Embiid probably moves to the four if the Sixers want to start Andre Drummond? Because Embiid could play the stretch,
Yeah. Yep.
And then Ben Simmons, he can't shoot a jump shot. He's just good seeing the floor, making the passes that he has to make, but he just needs to work on shooting.
Yep.
So also, what the Bulls have also made some headlines this offseason. What are your thoughts on Lonzo Ball joining the Bulls in a sign and trade deal, and he gets to play with Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen with the Bulls?
Yeah, well, Lonzo still trying to, I think, find his place in the NBA. But I mean, he'll get a good paycheck out of this. What is it? 4 years, $85 million.
Yes. Next, the Bulls are going to probably extend Zach LaVine. They're going to need him for the Bulls to contend. But I think the Bulls are heading in the right direction with their recent offseason moves. Also, they just got Victor Oladipo.
Yeah. So Bulls trying to make some moves. We'll see. I'm still not sold on Lonzo Ball. I think he's improved a lot. We'll have to see how the Bulls use him and how they make all this work together.
Yeah, I think it's going to work. Let's see how it works. But also, Blake Griffin is staying with the Brooklyn Nets. Do you think that's going to help the Nets with their title chances? Because you know Blake Griffin pretty well. He was starting to find himself last year.
Yeah, and I think that he's been doing pretty well. And I think that I think that Durant and Kyrie and Harden like playing with him, and he brings some toughness to the team too. So I like it.
I like it too. I mean, I think the Nets should be the favorites coming out of the East. We thought they were, but their defense really cost. They just didn't play good defense in Game 7 against the Bucks.
Yeah.
So also, what are your thoughts on the Knicks, however, are keeping Derrick Rose on a new 3-year contract? And then we talked about Jimmy Butler getting an extension. So and then he has Kyle Lowry with him in Miami now. And then Steph Curry is about to get a 4-year extension. So what about let's start with Derrick Rose with the Knicks first. Do you think that he kind of helps the Knicks in some way for the Knicks to kind of be back to championship contenders, or you think the Knicks are not there yet?
They're not there yet, but I think, one thing about the Knicks though is Derrick Rose is like a poor man's Chris Paul, where he provides a lot of good veteran leadership, I think. I mean, he's not nearly the player that Chris Paul is right now, but I think keeping on the team is a smart move for the Knicks.
Well, the Knicks have a good young core there, like Julius Randle, reigning most improved player of the year. Obi Toppin's going to be something special. I just think the Knicks they need a little bit of time, but I think the reason why they were one of the top 5 teams in the East last season was because of the coaching of Tom Thibodeau. And I think coaching had to do with it, and I think the Knicks are now a well-coached team. We talked about in the past, does James Dolan attract big-name players and big-name coaches? I think Tom Thibodeau kind of attracted James Dolan's attention.
Yes, I think so too.
And we also have a debate that James Dolan is still pretty much the worst owner in the NBA.
Yeah, I agree.
And then also the Atlanta Hawks gave Trae Young a 5-year, $207 rookie max extension. Do you think that with that extension, are the Atlanta Hawks ready to compete in the East?
Well, they've already been competing, and that's why they gave it to him. So, I mean, overachieved this year, and not in a way that's like it was a one-shot deal. It was like, no, they're legit contenders. And it'll be if they run in. I mean, there's still Philly, Milwaukee, and Brooklyn, I think, ahead of them. And you've got the Heat making some moves again. You have some teams like New York and Chicago trying to make a move, but the Hawks are right there.
Yeah, the Hawks are right there. The Eastern Conference is going to get very, very competitive. That's for sure. So with that being said, here, I think that and also the Lakers have some departures as well. Alex Caruso is going to the Bulls, and boy, the Lakers and us will miss Alex Caruso in the purple and gold. He was the Caruso. And I knew he wanted to stay with the Lakers, but I just felt like that the Lakers were heading in a different direction.
Yeah, yep, I agree.
So what do you think Alex Caruso brings to the Bulls?
He's going to be a really good off-the-bench guy for them.
Well, he is, that's for sure. But also, I forgot to mention this name. Do you think, Trevor Ariza pretty well because he won a title with Kobe. Do you think he can win a title with LeBron and AD?
Yes, yeah, I think he can.
And then there also are some reports that the Boston Celtics could be eyeing a reunion with IT, not Isaiah Thomas from the Pistons. I don't know if you watched the original Isaiah Thomas with the Detroit Pistons, but it's the small 5'11" point guard Isaiah Thomas, who was a fan favorite with the Boston Celtics. He could be coming back to the Celtics and helping this young team out. Do you think that if he does come back to the Celtics, do you think that's going to help them compete?
Yes, I think so.
Well, if you look at the Celtics, their team's built around Jason Tatum. And it was such a good thing they got rid of Kemba Walker. I think they won that end of the deal. Do you think the Celtics are better off without Kemba Walker?
Yeah, for sure. I think they needed a roster change, absolutely.
Yeah, they didn't work out with with Gordon Hayward. They didn't work out with Gordon Hayward, and also they didn't work out with Kemba Walker for sure, and Kyrie. They needed to keep guys like Marcus Smart. I know that he is a leader in the locker room. Jaylen Brown, he is going to be a star. He's an all-star caliber player. But I think Brad Stevens knows what he's doing now that he got promoted to president of basketball ops with the Celtics. Do you think he's done a good job so far in that role?
Yes, I think he has. And you can start to see his imprint on this team, I believe.
Do you think it's a better job than Danny Ainge?
Yes. I mean, Ainge did a good job, but he never took him to an NBA title, I don't think, right?
He did that 1 year.
Oh, he was there for the Lakers one? Okay.
He did with when Doc Rivers had his best. He had his best roster with the Celtics with KG and Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, but also the Oklahoma City Thunder extended Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. It's a 5-year, $172 million extension. Do you think that OKC is definitely building their core around SGA?
Yeah, they might be, and he's quite a talent. I remember when he was at the Clippers, I thought he had a lot of potential there. So, yeah, he's doing well.
Yes, and then also we have some other some news to talk about. DeMar DeRozan is, I think from what I'm hearing, he is actually, I'm looking on Twitter right now that DeMar DeRozan is meeting with the Clippers today. And everybody thought that he would be a Laker. Do you see DeMar DeRozan being a Clipper, or do you think he'll be a Laker?
Interesting, yeah. I mean, he's a local guy too, right? He played at USC.
Yes, he liked Paul George and like Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah, I think he would help with the Clippers. They're with George and Kawhi Leonard. I think they could have won a title this year if Kawhi was healthy. So I think by adding DeRozan, they'll be maybe not favorites quite yet, but they'll be aiming for another run here.
Yes, and then also, what are your thoughts on Steph Curry getting an extension with the Warriors? Do you think the Warriors are definitely going to not be counted out in the playoff picture? And with Klay Thompson coming back, do you think that makes them a top 3 team, or you're not quite sure on Golden State heading into the upcoming season?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure about Golden State, but yeah. So I think they need me to see Clay and Steph back together again after 2 years of not playing together, especially
Yes,
with all the other teams in the West.
yeah, the West is pretty competitive. You got the Lakers, you got Phoenix, Clippers, the Denver Nuggets, and of course the Utah Jazz. So
Mm-hmm.
so I think the I think that the Warriors will probably be a play-in kind of team or maybe a 6 seed, but I kind of think that with the new play-in tournament, that's going to be pretty much a foregone conclusion that it's going to be permanent. I really think that the Warriors are definitely a play-in team, don't you think?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So with that being said, also the Portland Trailblazers kept Norman Powell to stay with Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum. Do you think that Norman Powell kind of helps with the bench for the Blazers?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll talk about some NBA and also PJ Tucker. He's now in Miami. He won a ring with Milwaukee. Do you think that he kind of helps the Miami Heat in some way?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
And also, what are your thoughts on Giannis being the NBA Finals MVP?
Well deserved. Yeah, he was the favorite, I think, for me.
If the Bucks were to win, then he was probably the favorite. You know, in Game 6, he scored 50 points. Who would
Yeah.
have thought for a big man like him who just doesn't have a jump shot, he just scored it well. He just played tough defense, and you know how well he can dunk the ball and all that.
Yeah.
So I think, and also, do you think the Bucks can repeat?
No, I think the league is too tough right now for them to three-peat. Yeah. They'll be contenders next year, though.
But you don't think they'll repeat as champs just because?
Oh, I thought you said three-peat. I'm sorry. I thought you said three-peat. Like,
No, I meant repeat.
okay, yeah, no. Repeat, it's possible. I still think it's tough because the NBA has changed so much.
It is in some way. I think Giannis, Middleton, and Drew Holiday are pretty much the core for the Bucks, along with Brooke Lopez. So I think that's something to talk about when the season comes. But let's move on now to football. So we have some injury news to talk about. Is that from the LA Rams? Your boy Matthew Stafford suffered somewhat of a minor pinky injury, from what I'm hearing. He's probably going to be out for just some days. And I've seen that he has really gelled well in training camp with his new Rams teammates. What have you seen from Matthew Stafford so far with his new team right now? Are you kind of excited to see what he can do in the regular season with the Rams?
Oh, yeah. I think, it's going to be a fun time for Rams fans. I think Stafford brings a lot to the team that Goff struggled with. I think you're going to have I think a quarterback that is going to understand McVay's scheme a little bit better, and I think is going to be a little bit better making big plays. I mean, Stafford's not exactly a mobile quarterback, but he doesn't need as perfect of a pocket as Goff does. So, and big thing, McVay and Stafford seem to really like each other and are getting along really well. So, yeah, I think they're Super Bowl contenders this year.
Yeah, I think the NFC West, the AFC North are pretty much the two divisions to me that are going to be the best divisions in football this year. We're going to talk more about that, but we have injury news to talk about with the Colts. So Carson Wentz and their all-pro guard Quentin Nelson have foot injuries, and they're going to be out 5 to 12 weeks. And how do you think this affects the Colts?
Yeah, I think that, it obviously hurts them, but I think, how long are the injuries for?
They they removed a bone spur on their foot. So basically, Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson are both out for 5 to 12 weeks.
Yeah, that's rough. So I didn't hear about that. So Wentz is out for 5 to 12 weeks.
Well, yeah, he felt something in his foot in practice, and then there was thought that he would just avoid surgery and just rehab it, but he just got surgery on it instead to kind of remove the bone chip.
Yeah, that is rough news if you're a Colts fan.
But do you think even if they have those injuries like that to Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz, do you think the Colts are still a competitive team in the AFC South? Because Frank Reich knows what he's doing with quarterbacks. He knows next man up mentality. He knows Carson Wentz pretty well. But there's some talk about if Nick Foles can come to the rescue to the Colts. But Nick Foles said, I'm going to work with the third stringers with the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could work, or Drew Lock might work. We'll see what they do.
I was kind of thinking, you could see what Jacob Eason can do. I think Jacob Eason's is a pretty good quarterback too, because I think Frank Reich can develop younger quarterbacks as well.
Yeah.
So I know what Frank Reich is doing. Do you still favor the Colts in the AFC South?
No, I favor Tennessee at this point.
I was kind of thinking before the season that is the Colts and the Titans going to battle it out for first place in the AFC South. But with the Wentz injury, it could change things a little bit. But I think the Colts are not going to be playing bad the whole year. I think the Colts defense is still really, really good.
Yeah, they are. Like last year, they were one quarterback away from winning. But I think that this is kind of a gut punch, and 12 weeks would be 3 months. So September 2nd, October 2nd, so early November at the latest, I guess you could say.
Or I'm hearing that he could return sooner than 5 to 12 weeks, from what I'm hearing. That's what.
Yeah, I mean, if he just moves, if he's just out through September, that's not so bad. But he has a new quarterback, even though it's a system he's familiar with. So, October might be rough for him to get back. But they might be able to make a good push in November and December for the playoffs still.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I think Tennessee and the Colts are still going to make things competitive in the AFC South. But also, I think losing Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz definitely is a big blow to the Colts, but especially Quentin Nelson. The Colts, when healthy, they have the best offensive line in football.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they know how to they open up holes for the run game. But I think the reason why I think the Colts will still be good without Carson Wentz is because they have the receivers for the backup quarterbacks for them to. That's why I'm talking about guys like Michael Pittman Jr., T.Y. Hilton, Zach Pascal. I'm talking about Paris Campbell. Those are the guys that I think are going to step up in the absences of Carson Wentz and Quentin Nelson.
Uh-huh.
So you think this could affect the Colts probably in the beginning of the season?
Yeah, definitely. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Also, another topic to talk about is that the Green Bay Packers are trying to make Aaron Rodgers happy again. And however, they brought back a familiar face to complement Davante Adams and Aaron Jones, and that is Randall Cobb, who they got from that toxic Houston Texans organization. I'll tell you what, Randall Cobb's pretty happy to be out of Houston right now.
Oh, yeah, I think anyone is at this point. I mean, that organization is taking a big old dump right now.
So what do you think about Randall Cobb reuniting with Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, I think it's good for both of them. I think that they are productive together, and I think they'll be pretty good. But I think Rodgers, he still has about a year left. And
he just signed his new contract.
Yep. Yeah.
he just signed his new contract, and he's guaranteed until 2022. So 2023 and 2024, it looks like he's going to be free to move elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to be leaving Green Bay anytime soon from all that drama that he's dealt with.
Yeah.
So do you? And I think the Packers are going to be great offensively, but I only question their defense.
Yes, I agree.
But I still think they're the favorites to win the NFC North. I think they are. But you got to still watch out for the Vikings, the Bears with Justin Fields. We'll talk about the Vikings situation in just a minute. And then of course, the Detroit Lions could be better what people may think.
Yeah, I think so. I think I think 4 wins is probably what they're going to do this year. But they could do more than that. So
yeah, this is the question that we're going to talk about next. One of the questions of the day is, which first-year head coach will make an immediate impact in 2021 with the teams in their new teams, with the teams that they hired? Do you like Urban Meyer? Do you like Nick Sirianni? Do you like David Culley? You like Brandon Staley from our LA Chargers, or Robert Saleh with the Jets, or your boy Dan Campbell with the Detroit Lions? Who do you like out of that group?
So I think that's a pretty good group. I think you'll see Urban Meyer's impact pretty quickly and in a positive way. I think Brandon Staley should be good. They are learning a new defensive scheme and a new offensive scheme, which might put a ceiling at how good they can be. But I know that Rashawn Slater looked really good in practice. They were saying, like, he was able to block Bosa, and so I think out of all those guys, I think Robert Saleh is probably the biggest question mark for me, other than whoever, I forget who the Texans hired. Like, he's
you're talking about, that's David Culley. He was with the Ravens last year as an assistant head coach with Harbaugh.
Right, and he's there to kind of manage the fire. Like, they're not going to do anything, unfortunately. But Saleh, just good energy, good defensive guy, I think. There's a lot of work on offense that team needs, though. And
I think the Jets have Zach Wilson. I think Zach Wilson's going to be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback in the near future. I think the Jets found that guy in Zach Wilson, but they have a lot of work to do on offense. But I think Robert Saleh's impact will be mostly on the defensive side of the ball and special teams.
Yeah.
That's what I think Robert Saleh is going to definitely be focused on. But I think the Jets' offense will be a lot better than what people think than last year's Jets' offense with Darnold and Gase.
Yeah.
So you said you like Saleh out of that group. I like Urban Meyer. I think Urban Meyer is definitely going to make quite an impact in and I think Jacksonville was missing that voice in the locker room, and they were missing the quarterback that they want to draft in their own, and Trevor Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence has the receivers to get the ball too.
Yeah, to be clear, I thought Saleh actually is the most questionable of all the hires, just because I need to see what he does on offense. I think the others are generally pretty good. I think Dan Campbell, there's some question marks. I mean, I like him. I know a lot of people think he's not a good coach, maybe a really good person and a good motivator. But I like the guy. I like the energy he's brought to the Lions. I like Brandon Staley and Urban Meyer. I like, and the new Falcons coach, Smith.
Oh, I forgot to put his name on there. Arthur Smith. Do you think Arthur Smith can rejuvenate Matt Ryan's career?
Hopefully, yeah. I think he's the right guy for it.
Well, the thing with Arthur Smith is he and Kyle Shanahan run similar offensive system. They're more play action, run the ball, and Arthur Smith used that type of offense when he was with Tennessee with Derrick, and how Derrick Henry became one of the elite backs right now in the NFL, which he still is.
Yeah.
So you think that Arthur Smith could make an impact on the Falcons in his first year?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, but which head coach do you think is facing the most pressure this year?
I I think it's I think McCarthy with the Cowboys. I think Nagy with the Bears. I think Joe Judge with the Giants. I think I would say Kingsbury's up there, but not as high as those. And then like I'll throw another name out there. I'll say Pete Carroll. I think they've underachieved a bit, and I think there was that off-season issue with Russell Wilson, and I think that it's possible like they could go in a different direction. Plus, he's a lot older, and they might feel they need a change, especially if they don't. What if they don't make the playoffs this year?
Well, I think the Seahawks will make the playoffs this year. I think they will, but I think the coach that's facing a lot of pressure this season is probably, to me, is Zach Taylor. I have to see what he has to do with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. If the Bengals underachieve this year, I don't think the Bengals will be that good, but they're probably not going to make the playoffs. I'm kind of thinking that since the Bengals are probably not going to make the playoffs this year, he probably will get the boot.
Yeah, on top of that, I think Baker Mayfield's under a lot of pressure this year.
Not really. I wouldn't put Matt Nagy. I put Matt Nagy as one of my coaches on the hot seat heading into the season. We'll talk more about that in September. But I think I'm going to let Matt Nagy off the hook this time. But he's got to start Justin Fields week 1. We'll talk about that debate in just a minute. But also some other news to talk about is that Zach Ertz is pretty much not happy with the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you think he'll get dealt? And if so, who do you think's the best fit for Zach Ertz? And I'm going to go first with this one. I think if Zach Ertz gets traded, he goes to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni, I don't know how good he's going to be as a coach. I just haven't a good impression of him so far. It doesn't surprise me that you have a veteran like Ertz who wants out, and maybe it's not all on the new head coach. Maybe it's, I don't want to be a part of this rebuild, that's going on. And the Bills are obviously contending. Eagles aren't. So it could just be that as well.
Yeah, you're right about that. I think that Zach Ertz with Josh Allen and Emmanuel Sanders and Stephon Diggs and Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, that's going to be a lethal offense for the Buffalo Bills if he goes there.
Yep, I agree.
So, anyways, let's talk about the Bills. I asked you this last night before the show. There were some reports that the Bills might move to Austin, Texas. And I'm like, Austin, Bills? That's no way it's going to happen. Do you think the Bills will move to Austin, Texas, or do you think they're going to remain in Buffalo?
I am saying a hell no that the Bills are moving. This sounds to me like some special interest in Austin are trying to get some attention that, hey, we want a franchise here. The Buffalo's not a big city, but they have a diehard following, specifically in Western New York. And I know their name has been floated as relocation. They almost, they played some games in Toronto in the past. Maybe they'd be a candidate to go to London or something like that. But to move them to Austin, that's no way. And I feel too like, Texas has the Cowboys and
the Texans.
And is there any room for anyone else in that state?
Not really.
Yeah, you're not Austin might be a bigger growing area compared to Buffalo, but that whole area is just, it's a ton of Cowboy fans. And then you get some Texan fans, and just, the Cowboys it's tough to make inroads in their territory, so.
So I think the Bills will remain in Buffalo. Even though that their lease at their current stadium expires in 2023, I could see them doing this. Either they build a new stadium in downtown Buffalo or they renovate the whole thing.
Yeah.
They build shopping areas around Bill's Stadium, where it used to be called Ralph Wilson Stadium.
Yeah.
So you're saying that you think the Bills will remain in Western New York?
Yes, yeah.
Is that what you were saying?
Yep.
I definitely 100% agree on that. I call it Bill Stadium because it's a small stadium. That they don't own that stadium, but I think the Pagulas also own the Buffalo Sabres. So maybe they relocate the Bills to downtown Buffalo, right next to KeyBank Center.
Yeah, like that's the other thing too, is this could be a ploy by some Buffalo people to get a new stadium. And yeah, the Pagulas, they already own the Sabres. Like, to move the football team but keep the Sabres there, man, that'd be one way to also ruin your hockey franchise. People would be very bitter at that. So, all right, what's the next topic?
So you think the Bills? You think the Bills will remain in Buffalo?
Yes,
I agree 100%. But also, let's talk about our reaction to the situation with the Minnesota Vikings. They have Kirk Cousins, Kellen Mond, both test positive for COVID-19. Kirk Cousins is a high-risk contact, and the Vikings don't have a quarterback to practice with for the week, at least.
Yeah, and, I have to say that it's, it's a bit disappointing because, sometimes there's breakthrough cases, we know that, but ultimately, there's fans that expect to see their team and their players out there. Football, just like any sport, you already get injuries. And, to have players sit out or to perhaps have the team forfeit a game because they can't get vaccinated, inexcusable. It's these players, they put their health and well-being on the line every time they go out to play. And, I totally respect that. Everyone now has to put, their health first, which means getting a vaccine, but also means helping the people around you and making sure, like, you're not sick, you don't spread to other people or whatever. So, got to get the vaccine. And I'll tell you this, as a Chargers season ticket holder, man, if there's a game that shut down because of this, or if players have to sit out, that I want to see, I'm going to be very disappointed, and that's true, I think, for any football fan out there of any team.
Well, the thing is that they have to take things seriously. I don't want to see anybody forfeit games. I want to see a normal season without any cancellations, because last year we had to deal with a lot of cancellations of games.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping for, but I also think that I think that Kirk Cousins will be back. But also, speaking of which, do you think the Vikings could be good this year? We'll talk about that as a different subject, but let's also talk about some quarterback competitions now. So let's start with the Chicago Bears quarterback competition. Matt Nagy has said that Andy Dalton right now is a starter week 1 against the LA Rams. I don't agree with it, but I still favor Justin Fields as the starting quarterback week 1 against the LA Rams. Do you think the Bears will start Justin Fields, or do you think they go Andy Dalton to kind of let Justin Fields learn the playbook before stepping onto the field?
Yeah, I think I personally think they're going to go with Dalton to start off the season. I've heard from the Bears organization that that's what they plan on doing. Fields, they need to see how Fields plays in some of these preseason games, I think, and then it might put some pressure on them to make a move. I'm also wondering, too, like, the Bears open up the season at the Rams here in Los Angeles. It's a Sunday night football game, and I wonder if there'll be pressure for them to put Fields out there for eyeballs on them, in that primetime game. So I still think they're going to start Dalton, but I think there's definitely scenarios where they could end up going with Justin Fields.
I still think they go. I want them to go with Justin. My pick for the Bears to start a quarterback week 1 is Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields, to me, is going to be the best quarterback coming out of Ohio State. Out of the Ohio State quarterbacks I've seen, they weren't great, but I think Justin Fields is the best one out. Is going to be the best one coming out of Ohio State.
Yeah, I agree.
Because he has that potential. He's kind of like Patrick Mahomes. We already know which quarterback competition is already a foregone conclusion. What are your thoughts on Trey Lance being QB2 in SF? Because I really think Trey Lance is kind of the next Mahomes. He and Justin Fields are the next Mahomes coming up. But Do you think that Jimmy Garoppolo is the safe bet to start for the Niners right now at quarterback? That way, just Trey Lance can kind of be featured in the pistol formations, read option plays, and to kind of still slowly learn the offensive system that Kyle Shanahan is bringing.
Yeah, I think there's two things going against Trey Lance starting in week one. The first is it is a complicated system that Kyle Shanahan uses. And I don't think Trey Lance has much experience in it when he was at it was North Dakota State, right?
Yeah, he didn't even play last year.
Right, yeah. So, there's a steep learning curve there. And the other thing is experience. Obviously Trey Lance is a rookie, doesn't have any NFL experience, but he also didn't play last year. Is that the person you want leading your team out onto the field in week one? I think a lot of the players with the 49ers probably feel, no, we want to stick with Jimmy G. He got us to a Super Bowl. He has experience. And I feel like they're going to be likely to keep rolling with Jimmy G until he gets injured or it's clear that he's making too many mistakes out there, and then they'll make the switch.
That's definitely a good move right now. Jimmy Garoppolo starter, Trey Lance, he's the backup, and then when the Niners are on pistol, I could see Trey Lance coming into the game in those formations.
Yeah.
Just because Jimmy Garoppolo has injury history, and I don't want him to be hurt or anything, because Trey Lance can run the pistol offense. He can do play action and do read option play action and then try to run the ball out of bounds to stop the clock.
Yeah.
That's what I think Trey Lance could be used for right now. I'm kind of comparing that to Taysom Hill. But before we get to the Patriots situation at quarterback, let's talk about the Saints quarterback situation. And you know who I picked to start in week one? Would it be Ian Book, the rookie out of Notre Dame? I like that kid. I think he could be the next Drew Brees. Could it be Jameis Winston? Or do you think it's Taysom Hill? I think the favorite right now is Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I think so too. It'll be interesting who they pick there.
What do you think of Taysom Hill potentially starting week one against the Packers? Do you think Taysom Hill will give the Saints the best chance to win ball games?
Yes, I think he probably is the best chance, at least at the beginning of the season. Yeah.
Well, there's thought about could Jameis start, but I'm like, think again, Sean Payton. Drew Brees just retired, and Sean Payton loves Taysom Hill.
Yeah.
So you think Taysom Hill could win? Is probably the favorite to win the starting job in New Orleans?
Yeah.
And let's go to my team, the Patriots quarterback situation. I've been so impressed with Mac Jones. He has progressed so well in training camp and all that, but I can't wait. I'm eagerly anxious to see him play in a preseason game when the Patriots play next Thursday against the Washington football team in preseason play. So do you think Mac Jones do you think Mac Jones is going to do you think Mac Jones can beat out Cam Newton for the starting job in week one? And I personally think he should. I think he will, just because, week one on the Patriots regular season calendar, they play the Dolphins week one in New England. And the starting quarterback for the Dolphins is Tua Tagovailoa. And I want Mac Jones to start because I want both Alabama quarterbacks to go head to head.
Yeah. That'd be cool.
And what do you think? Do you think it's Mac Jones that starts for the Patriots, or do you think they stick with Cam?
I think they're going to stick with Cam initially, actually, and then I think they'll put Mac Jones in there if Cam is struggling or gets hurt.
We'll have to see what the preseason holds, but right now, what my expectation is that Mac Jones beats out Cam Newton, and Bill Belichick names him the starting quarterback week one. I kind of have. I've read reports about Bill Belichick said Cam is the starter right now, and that kind of makes me want to throw up just because Cam Newton was awfully bad last year. But a lot of people told me this. Don't blame Cam Newton last year because of his struggles, because he was not good in passing the football last year. But people told me that he just didn't have a full off season to learn the Patriots playbook. And now this is his second year learning the playbook. And he got more time to kind of study that playbook.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying is he was sick with COVID last year. They didn't have time in training camp to get things started. and Bill Belichick likes him, and I just think he's going to stick with him until Mac Jones, he feels, is ready to take over the helm. And I think his stats aside, like his stats were bad, but he also had no help around him. That was another big problem. So I think they've helped him a little bit with that. So I think you got to give Cam one more shot to get going here.
I could see where you're saying with that, but in my opinion, I just want Mac Jones to start because I feel like that come week one in that game against the Dolphins, I want to see both Alabama quarterbacks go toe-to-toe. Tua on the other end, Mac Jones on the other end, because Mac Jones backed up to a Tagovailoa in Alabama. That's why I want Mac Jones to be the week one starter, which I think he has a very good shot at winning that QB1 job. It's going to depend on how preseason goes.
Yeah.
And all that. But from what I've heard from Mac Jones and all that, I've heard that he's had a fantastic training camp. And the reason why I think Mac Jones is better suited to start week one over Cam is because, look, the Patriots spent a lot of money on skill position players. Like, they got good receivers like Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, and then Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry.
Yeah.
That's why I want Mac Jones out there right away instead of seeing Cam Newton out there, because Cam Newton sometimes worries me, and I don't hate Cam Newton, but I just don't think that Cam Newton is built to be a starter anymore.
Yeah.
But you're saying that Cam Newton just didn't have a full off season last year, and people tell me don't blame him last year just because of how bad he was.
Right.
So I predict Mac Jones will start week one, but that's going to depend on how he does in the 3 preseason games that the Patriots have and the rest of training camp. So Bill Belichick is not going to make a decision just yet on who's going to start week one.
Right.
If you know what I mean. So anyways, let's talk about the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. So basically you don't really care about seeing who's starting or what, but I heard that Mason Rudolph is going to get the start under center against the Cowboys on Thursday night. Who do you think's who's your pick to win that game? I'm going to pick the Cowboys in this one.
Yeah, I'll pick the Cowboys. I just heard today that Dak Prescott hurt his shoulder, and he's not going to be playing in that game. They're saying
that's good. That's good.
And he might not play in any preseason game, which means like maybe that's going to be maybe that's more serious of an injury. I heard that people who saw the injury didn't think it was anything bad. It didn't look bad, but you never know. Like, obviously injuries can look bad and actually they're not as bad, and vice versa. They can not look bad and there's been a lot of damage, so.
I think Dak Prescott will be ready for week one, but if he doesn't play the entire preseason, then I'm okay with it. Let him get more time to rest, and then you get him ready for that week one game against Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, there you go.
That's what I'm kind of thinking there. That's kind of the benefit, the reason why I don't think some star players should be playing in preseason football, just because they don't want to get hurt. They want to make sure that they're fully healthy for this 18-week regular season coming up.
Yeah.
And also, before we get to MLB, we have some breaking news to talk about right now.
All right.
The Lakers have signed Carmelo Anthony to a 1-year deal to join LeBron James and Anthony Davis. What are your thoughts about Carmelo Anthony joining the purple and gold?
Well, here we go. They have star power. Melo, he's going to bring some, excitement off the bench. He can be a little bit of a jump shooter, for you. But he's so old. I simply don't know, what role he's going to be.
Probably not a starter, just because you're going to probably want to start Dwight Howard at center. There's a lot of people that may think that Anthony Davis should play center. Do you think you could see Anthony Davis be playing some center?
Yes, I could. Yeah.
I don't really think Anthony Davis should play center just because of his injuries and all that. I want him to stick to playing the 4.
I'm hearing too that I Back to NFL breaking news that the Colts are looking at Marcus Mariota of the Raiders to bring him in. No, nothing confirmed, but they're reaching out to the Raiders about Marcus Mariota.
They're probably not going to trade him, so we'll have to wait and see. But you think that Carmelo could help the Lakers in some way? And you think this is the best shot for him to win a ring?
Yeah, probably. I mean, at this point, I don't know. I mean, if not the Lakers, you join the Clippers or the Nets or the Bucks. So I mean, he has to pick one of those teams and just sign on and say, "Here I go." And I don't know what Carmelo brings to the Lakers, to be honest.
Well, I think what Carmelo brings is scoring, but he just can't play defense. But I think Frank Vogel is gonna pretty much help Carmelo Anthony learn how to play defense efficiently and effectively.
Yeah.
But the Lakers also got Malik Monk too, who I think could definitely help. That's another John Calipari player in the NBA.
Yep.
So that's who the Lakers got there. So that was some breaking news to talk about here. If there's more, we'll let you know. So let's go on to baseball. So let's start with the trade deadline to talk about. The Dodgers got Max Scherzer and Trey Turner from the Washington Nationals. They sent Josiah Gray and Keibert Ruiz and other prospects to the Washington Nationals. How excited are you about Max Scherzer joining the Boys in Blue?
Oh, very. He's an excellent pitcher, and he's going to stabilize the rotation with Trevor Bauer not returning, with Kershaw being older and maybe having a bit of a forearm issue. Julio Urias, who's over his career pitch count in a season already. They basically have Buehler and then guys that you're kind of crossing your fingers on, and so with Max Scherzer, this alleviates a lot of that pressure, and it'll simultaneously relieve pressure off the bullpen. Obviously, when you have good starting pitching, it means you require less from your bullpen, on most nights. So, and then Trey Turner, they can stop platooning,
Are you talking about Gavin Lux? Because you don't think Gavin Lux has really worked out and doesn't have a place on this team? Because I feel like that this offseason, that if the Dodgers move on from Gavin Lux, I think it's going to be more and more likely that we see Corey Seager stay with the Dodgers, which I expect the Dodgers to keep for sure.
Yeah, and who did the Dodgers give up?
Keibert Ruiz, the catcher, and they also gave up one of their top pitching prospects in Josiah Gray.
Okay. Yeah, you make that deal. Like, when you're as good as the Dodgers are and you just won a championship and you're competing for championships, you give up prospects. You make it rain prospects to bring in talent. And they're also really good at managing their system and drafting. So they they're not like completely gutting their farm system with this stuff. They still have plenty of other prospects down there in the minors. So smart move for the Dodgers. So I like it.
I like it too. Who do you think won the deal? Do you think the Dodgers won it, or do you think the Washington Nationals won it?
The Dodgers. I tend to think, these teams that trade for veterans or known quantity, to boost their championship chances, like, they win these deals. Like, yeah, you could say maybe, who knows, 5 years from now, that Dodgers prospect is throwing a no-hitter for the Nationals, and has a 3.0 Major League ERA and things like that, and he's doing really well. But, we don't know any of that. So I think the Dodgers, win the trade.
So do you think that even with Trey Turner with the Dodgers, you think the Dodgers will re-sign Corey Seager even if the Dodgers move on from Gavin Lux, which I kind of think that's probably the case now that Gavin Lux is probably going to be left off the roster?
Yeah. I think it'll be very interesting to see what they do with Corey Seager. Yeah, I have a feeling that a team is going to offer him a ton of money, and the Dodgers aren't going to match it.
So you don't think he stays with the Dodgers?
Yeah, I think I think he'll choose to sign for the money and the big bucks. I'm not saying the Dodgers won't try to keep him. They might be able to make some room for him financially with the team.
I think they will. I
just feel like in situations like this, I just think there's like a mid-level team that'll say, maybe it'll be the Cleveland Indians or something like that. It'll be like, yeah, or the Cleveland Guardians, as they'll now be called. So, and just say, yeah, we'll offer you more than any other team, and he'll just say, yeah, I'll take it.
I think Corey Seager will remain with the Dodgers. I think that Gavin Lux will probably get dealt in the offseason. I think the Dodgers will be sure to keep him on their roster.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
So, anyways, let's talk about the Yankees now. Joey Gallo, Anthony Rizzo get to join the New York Yankees, and also want to get your thoughts on this. What are your thoughts on the Cubs trading Javi Baez and Chris Bryant to the Mets and to the Giants and to the Yankees?
Yeah, so I was surprised the Cubs had a fire sale.
Why did that?
Especially because my Tigers didn't really have a fire sale, and I thought like they should be making some more moves. But maybe the Tigers think they're in a better position, you know. Yeah, the Cubs. I mean, you could also say that the Cubs, they with those three players, with Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez, that to me they never quite became as dominant as people thought they were going to be. I mean, they were all good. And they won a World Series, but I don't think right now they're that dominant, you know. So I think it makes sense for the Cubs. The Cubs, how far back were they?
They weren't that far back. I mean, they were playing right at 500 ball, you know.
Yeah, I mean that was what surprised me is like you usually don't see. I mean, but the Angels though, they're in a similar situation. They're like playing 500 ball, and they dealt Haney, you know. So, you know, I think these teams, they probably felt that they were going to be consistently mediocre, and we're like, okay, we got to deal these guys and get what we can. And then, yeah, we're the Cubs. Yeah. You know, I don't know. They've lost. Well, yeah, I think the more I look at it, the more it makes sense for the Cubs. In terms of the Yankees, you know, they're 7 games back. Well, they're 6 games back from the wild card. Actually, less than that. They're not. They're only like 3 games back from the wild card. But you know, if you're the Yankees, you're not doing this trade to make the wild card. I don't think you're trying to win the division. You know, so they're 7 games back from that. They're right at that deadline where it's like you're 7 games back here, August 3rd. You got a little under 2 months to make it up. They probably have some head-to-head games against the Rays and the Red Sox that they can think they can capture even more like ground quicker that way. So I think it's a dicey move by the Yankees. I think it's gutsy, and I think they need to. I think it's risky to bring on those 2 guys, you know, and perhaps not even make the playoffs. Then you look really bad.
Yeah, that definitely is a risky move. That could definitely be a risky move there, but I think the Yankees are definitely going to benefit from that. But I think the biggest winner of the trade deadline to me is the Dodgers. I think the biggest loser in this trade deadline is, of course, the Angels.
Yeah, they should have. Yeah, that organization still can't figure itself out, and I think Madden is finally having his say. But you know, such a disappointment. I mean, you have Mike Trout, although he's been injured for most of the year. You have Mike Trout, you have Shohei Ohtani, you know, and 2 of the most exciting players in the game. I would say Shohei is the most exciting. I would say Mike Trout, when he's healthy, is the best. And you're not even competing to get into the playoffs. You're like 500 or lower every year. It's like you've got to make moves. You've got to have a better product on the field for your fans. So, you know, they weren't in a position with Trout's injury to make a run, so I expected them to be sellers, but yeah, probably should have sold more.
They might have, but we'll have to we'll have to wait and see on that. That's for sure here. So, anyways, with that, with that being said, here now let's talk about here. Let's also recap the Dodgers and Diamondbacks series. It kind of told you this. The Dodgers took 2 out of 3 from the Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks were not that great of a team, you know. But I think that whatchamacallit, I think that the Dodgers, I think the Dodgers, after losing the series to the Giants, I think that the Dodgers have really, I think the Dodgers are going to heat it up in August.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think about the Dodgers' upcoming series against the Astros and the Angels? So let's start with the Astros series. So this is the first time the Astros will be seeing a full crowd of Dodger Stadium since the World Series of 2017. And I would expect probably inflatable trash cans be thrown onto the field throughout this game.
Yeah, me too.
And I think inflatable ones and also real ones to be tossed with tons of garbage on the field.
Yeah.
I
think so too. They're going to hear it for sure.
I think the Astros are going to hear it, and trust me, I am not going to be mad if a fan gets ejected because of this.
Yeah.
I get why they're doing it. It's because they are not happy with the Houston Astros sign-stealing scandal.
Yep, I agree.
So do you think the Dodgers sweep them just so that they show the Astros what's up? I would love that since it's at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah.
Let the Astros hear it.
I agree.
And what about the Angels coming up? Do you think the Dodgers should definitely get their brooms on them?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then let's talk about some other trades. What's your thoughts on Jose Barrios to the Toronto Blue Jays? How do you think that makes an impact on the Toronto Blue Jays?
So I think it'll help them a little bit, but they're not winning that division. They're not getting ahead of the Yankees or the Rays or the Red Sox. They just aren't. So
you think that kind of helps in some way?
Yeah, a little bit, but.
And also, I want to get your thoughts on Garrett Cole testing positive for COVID-19. Do you think that hurts the Yankees in some way?
Yeah, it will. Yeah, he'll miss at least a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think that really does hurt the Yankees in some way. I think he's by far I think he's their only best starter in their rotation, aside from, when healthy, Corey Kluber can be that number 2 guy behind Garrett Cole. But I think, and Andrew Heaney, I didn't get why they get him. He's not been that great of a starter. But I only trust Garrett Cole in the Yankees rotation and Kluber when healthy.
Yeah.
And then what was your thoughts on the Cleveland Indians being called the Guardians?
Good move. They had to get rid of the nickname, and Guardians seems fine by me.
It is. And then also the Detroit Tigers. So do you think Akil Baddoo should deserve to be a finalist for the AL Rookie of the Year award?
Yeah, I think so. He's done a nice job. I don't think he'll win it, but I think he'll be up there.
I think he's going to be good for a long time. I think that's going to be someone that the Tigers are going to build their lineup around, because Akil Baddoo had such a good start to his season. He got called up to be on the opening day roster, and I also think Casey Mize, he might be the new Verlander on the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, he just might be.
Do you think he's really taken his game to another level now?
Yeah, I think so. So it'll be exciting to see him in the future.
Yeah, let's take a look at the standings. So the Dodgers and Giants and Padres still hold 1, 2, 3 in the NL West, with the Rockies and the Diamondbacks 4th and 5th. In the American League West, you got the Astros, the A's, the Mariners have been the MLB Cinderella story this year, and they've been fantastic, and nobody thought they would be there. The Angels and the Rangers are the bottom tier, but I think the Angels will definitely keep up with the Mariners if they get Mike Trout healthy at the right time. But in your division, the White Sox have a very sizable lead in the American League Central. The Indians are right up there on their heels. And who would have thought that your Detroit Tigers would be 51-57? They were supposed to be bad.
Yeah, they're doing pretty well. I think that's testament to the new coaching staff and the plan that they have with general manager Al Avila, and they're doing well.
You mean with AJ Hinch? Do you credit Al Avila for kind of rebuilding the system?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
And then do you think AJ Hinch is going to be a good manager for the Tigers at some point? Do you think that maybe by next year he's going to turn on the Jets?
Yeah, I do. Yep.
And then in fourth place, the Kansas City Royals. They started out real good, and they have fallen off. They've not been that great, but I was told that the Royals should have traded Whit Merrifield.
Yeah, that would have been good too.
And I was told that what if he was a Dodger? I was like, he would be great there because he's very versatile. Not only he could play second base, he could play the outfield too. And I think he would have fit the Dodgers in that way.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And then who would have thought the Twins would be in last place? They weren't supposed to be in this position. And I don't know what really happened. Do you know since you know that division so well, what really happened? What happened to the Minnesota Twins?
Yeah, I don't know. They just fell apart. The White Sox have really had a stranglehold on that division all year, and I just think that the Twins is terrible this year.
I don't think it's all on Rocco Baldelli. I think they have a good lineup. I mean, with Sano and Donaldson, but I think when they traded Nelson Cruz to the Tampa Bay Rays, I really think that's such a huge help to that lineup. And also the Rays are not. I thought the Rays were going to take a step back after losing to the Dodgers in 6 games of the World Series. They're showing me that them and the Red Sox and the Yankees and the Blue Jays are competing for that top spot in the American League East. Do you think the Yankees will win it, or do you think the Tampa Bay Rays will win it?
I think Tampa Bay is going to win it.
Well, if you look at it, but also I want to get your thoughts on this. What a huge blow that they lost Tyler Glass now. He is the ace of that staff. He was already turning up the Jets to being a contender for the American League Cy Young Award.
Yeah.
But that injury really hurt them. But I do like some other pitching, some guys like Brett Honeywell Jr., who I think has a lot of potential. But I'm already on the Wander Franco hype train.
Yeah, all right.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
Because Wander Franco, I think, is going to be really good by next year. He's already shown how good he can be this year. And what about in the National League East? My question for you is, with the Mets adding Javi Baez, do you think that's going to help the Mets win the division? And do you think he's happy to play with Francisco Lindor? I think Javi Baez will stay there because he loves Lindor.
Uh-huh.
And they should continue to play together.
Yeah, I agree.
So, anyways, with that being said, let's move on to hockey, and there's some news to talk about in that front. The LA Kings have been very aggressive this offseason. They got Philip Danault from the Montreal Canadiens, Alex Edler from the Vancouver Canucks, and they kept someone that you're familiar with during his days with the Detroit Red Wings to another one-year deal, and I think he is definitely going to be a key player for the Kings in this season and beyond. That is Andreas Athanasiou. Let's start with Athanasiou. So, how do you feel about him staying with the Kings?
Yeah, he's it's a year contract, so they might just want to see how he does in another full year of hockey. It could also be that he's just a stopgap, until they bring up one of their prospects. So, yeah, it doesn't look like he's a long-term guy, though.
You don't think so? You think Athanasiou is a very fast skater. He's a great goal scorer. I think that's what the Kings really needed, but the Kings wanted to be aggressive this offseason. But you saw Philip Danault in the Stanley Cup final. What do you think he brings to the Kings?
Yeah, I think that he's gonna definitely help them out and bring some leadership to the team and get them back to their winning ways.
And then Alex Edler from division rival Vancouver. You think he helps in some way too?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And then another hockey question for you. How excited are you to see the Seattle Kraken?
Oh, yeah, very excited. I'm looking forward to it.
I thought the expansion draft was pretty cool, but do you think the Kraken will be good in their first year playing?
I think they'll be better. Yeah, I think they'll be like a 500 team or so.
Well, if you look at the roster, they almost got Philip Goober from the Colorado Avalanche. That could have been really helpful, but they didn't get it. They didn't get that deal done.
Right, yeah.
So, anyway, some final thoughts is I'm very happy about the Dodgers getting Matt Scherzer and Trey Turner, and then football's coming up. I'm looking forward to for you and I to start predicting our division winners next month. What about you?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah, so our next show will be sometime next week. I'll let you know when. And Matt, you have a great day. And to everybody out there, have a good rest of your Thursday. And hope you guys enjoy the Astros and Dodgers matchup starting today.
Thanks, Loro. See you next time.
All right, I'll see you next week, Matt.